in Africa. I just want to mention free hugs. I love that shirt. I've actually seen a shirt that says free shrugs. And then every once in a while people are like, can I get a shrug? And they're like... So I live in Alaska. I don't do this. I play music. I host karaoke. I have never done open mic for karaoke. I mean, what is this, comedy? I don't know. But I do know that when someone hands me a microphone, I just start talking into it. Cannot stop talking into it. Yeah, so I started going by Cami from Miami because people are always like, oh, what's your name? Where are you from? And I'm like, oh, my name's Cami. I'm from Miami. And then I'm like, oh, that's really good. So that started being my stage name, right? And then after a while, now I'm on stage and I'm like, oh, we got Cami from Miami. And I come on stage and they're like, are you really from Miami? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? Like, no. They're like, good thing you're not from Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, because Camadale from Fort Lauderdale doesn't exactly sound the same. I don't know what I'm doing on stage or in my life, but I figure talking into microphones is something I'm good at. I got 3 minutes. It's gonna be great. This is my first day in Philly. I've never been here before. It's nice. I like architecture. I'm like looking around this little man on the tower and stuff. I remember me and my mom had a talk a while ago, and she's like, Camila, you know, because that's my name. I go by Cami because Americans like to call me Camille or Camellia, and I'm like, just call me Cami. That's fine. She's like, Camila, what are you doing with your life? Like, no, but really, what are you doing? Like, I see you and you're just kind of passing through, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Mama, I figured it out. I know exactly what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And she's like, what? And I'm like, improvise. If I have failed a little more, I might try a little harder, but if I had one more week to do it, I'd do it a week later. I don't care. So in Alaska, we get a lot of J1 visa people, which is people from Europe coming in and working, and I met a lot of Bulgarians. I started learning Bulgarian, and then I had this one guy coming up to me and being like, are you Bulgarian? And I'm like, no, I'm just learning some words. And then there were these tough guy Bulgarians. I don't know if you've ever seen like those Slavic guys that are just kind of like, the tough guy, I'm the tough guy. And then this one guy looks at me, and I'm a little lady, all right? And I got a cat hat on, and he's like, oh, you learning Bulgarian, what do you know how to say? And I'm like, Blagodaria, which means thank you. Dobrotro, good morning. And then I said, Asem kotense, which means I am a kitty. And then they're like, don't you mean Asem kuchka? And I knew enough to say I am a bitch. That's what he said. Don't you mean I am a bitch? And I'm like, Asem kuchka, disi kuchka. I'm not a bitch, you're a bitch. And then all of his friends started laughing. And he was like, all right. So last thing I want to tell you guys is the most obscene thing I've ever heard in a kitchen, because I have been a cook for a very long time, and you hear it all in the kitchen. Like, I don't get offended by things. I'm like, fucking lay it on me, I don't care. And there's no kids around, so I can say really obscene things. So the most intense thing that I've ever heard is when I was prepping on the line, I had someone come up to me and say, hey, Cami, do you think you can handle my dick in your ass? And I look at this man, and I'm like, boy, I bet I'm taking bigger shits than your dick. He did not come on to me at all after that. Thank you guys, I'm Cami from Miami.
We're Cami from Miami, everybody. Closing us out, please welcome Mr. Joey Doherty.